Hey everybody, this is a quick video just to talk about the expectations for this poster project that you were doing. Here is the new and improved grading rubric to reflect sort of some of our distance learning goals. You can read through this in detail, but I just thought I would go through these key points and with two projects so you can kind of compare how this relates to what you're trying to do. So imagine this is your project here. This is a comparison of screen time spent on TV, computer, and smartphone versus your age. So a comparison of looks like mostly sort of high school or middle school high schoolers, older high schooler, early in college, young college graduates, etc., and how their use of those three screen devices varies. Okay, so if this is a poster that's turned in, how would this be graded according to our rubric here? So key thing is you're trying to get good statistics, right? There's a lot of bad statistics out there. How you find the statistics is largely up to the topic you choose. Most of you will find things online, but it is definitely possible to survey actual human beings, especially through the use of the internet and Google Forms and things like that. So it's a great way to go. The gold standard is not to question every single person, but to do a fair sample subset of that group that you're trying to survey. So if it's Pingree, you might do 40 or 50 of your fellow classmates to see what their opinion is on something. But typically you guys are going to be online, and I've linked to various data URLs that you can use or ask me to help. Okay, so going back to this, it looks like they put their URL way down here in the bottom, so it's a little too hard to see, but I would check that out and see if their data is good. How old is their data? How new is their data? They do not appear to have that in this poster, so you want to try to say something about data from 2015 or some part of when this happened. This is all part of what we're going to see is called putting things in context. So going back to this, did you find a good source of reliable, relevant, and current statistics? Well, hope so. We can check that out. Did you cite your source? Should be clear. Will your poster explore at least 4 different factors? Going back to that, it looks like the way I would count this, if you're looking at the age and then these 3 different things, that really counts as 4 things. You're not just doing one thing. It's not just TV over time. Try to make it interesting. Try to compare things. Try to learn by exploring a relationship between something like age and viewing or types of devices. So that's good. I would check off all 4 of those things there. Is it a proper infographic for that particular data? Did you choose an appropriate graph and chart to best display your data and those 4 factors? Do your infographics use size, color, shape, etc. appropriately to effectively communicate your data? Again, going back to this, it's pretty good. Maybe, if you had little miniature phone pictographs, you could glance at this and each time be reminded, oh yeah, those are the phones, those are the computers, those are the TVs, and you wouldn't have to keep going up to refer to the color coding. But that's not a major thing, and if it makes it much easier to do this way, that's fine. But maybe you would have a picture icon up here just to make it visually really clear, or down below each one somehow to make it clear. Try to label things. It's all about communicating effectively. Try to make that picture be worth 1,000 words. Do your infographics, oh yeah, use color size, we talked about that. Okay, so quality, did you make a full poster? Well, that's going to be relatively easy to check. There's a separate video on how to do that, but basically you start a Google drawing and you can go to custom size. This is the size that fits inside our printer, large format paper. Did your poster express an idea or explore or highlight a question? So going back to the poster there, it's really looking at how the age influences what screen you are using at the time. And it's referred to in the conclusion down here. I'll get to in a bit. Back to our rubric. Did you put your data, graphs, or charts in context with labels and explanations? So I think that mostly, yes, it's quite clear here, but this 02468, that's not totally clear. Is that hours per day? Is that days per month, total accumulated hours? Is that on average? What does that number mean there? That's all part of putting it in context. So just look at your original source of data and then just describe either in words or even better on your graph and in words what those numbers mean. Did you find a regression line if appropriate? It might be possible in this graph if something increases over the age that you could say, oh, there's a line of regression or a line here of regression. Positive or negative correlation sometimes can be interesting, maybe not appropriate in this particular case, but you might be comparing two types of numbers and it would absolutely be a very good thing for you to have a regression line. Are your graphs accurately drawn? That's where the computer can really help. Do they have the correct scale and presentation? Talked about that a little bit. That's part of the whole presentation. Use your data to make at least one prediction and interpolation or extrapolation. Okay, so you could, well, what about younger than or older than 55? Is there a trend that you would expect? Is it possible to perhaps think about like an age where there's a legal limit to using your screen as an adult while you're driving a car or something like that? Maybe you could make a prediction about what type of device young operators of vehicles might be most likely to be using or something like that. That's interpolation is when you're trying to figure out a value in between two data points. Extrapolation is when you're trying to figure out a data value that goes beyond your data. Make a prediction into the future if it's time dependent. Again, this particular poster project, you really would not be predicting what a 22.5-year-old is. These are buckets, so they're grouped people in anywhere within 20 to 25 years old. But you do, if you are able to make a prediction beyond that, that might be appropriate. One little thing I'm noticing here is that this is a little bit confusing. Where would a 25-year-old be? Usually you go 20 to 24, then 25 to 29, and then 30 to 34, something like that. So that's something to be mindful of. Also then, include key items such as name, title, effective arrangement of graph, pictures, text, even a legend it's called that says what are all the symbols. That kind of detail is really helpful. And then finally, do you have like a one-page summary? This is your chance to sort of tell me what you've learned. That's something that normally we might be able to do in class, but this being distance learning, it's a good thing just to have written down a summary in your own words. If you did learn something, hopefully you did, it should be quite easy to just type out a description of what you learned. There's not really a right or wrong answer unless it's not your own words. Okay, so that is one quick look through this. Again, you do want to have a conclusion throughout this project. These folks learn that as you get older, your overall screen time decreases. That makes sense. I see that now. But it does not mean you aren't in front of a screen quite a bit. When you were younger, you spend more time watching TV. When you're in college, maybe high school, you spend more time on your computer and phone. That makes sense. You're writing papers, doing homework. As you get older, you increase your TV time again. Sort of maybe a bimodal curve. Try to use those good terms we know, but do also have a conclusion. What is your question, and were you able to answer it, or how does it highlight the importance of your question? Okay, so hopefully that's good. Here's a quick glance back at this project that I did to sort of illustrate how you can do two variable data. I'm trying to move this graph a little bit so you can see it better. There it is, maybe. But again, this would be a comparison of four things. We have gun ownership, we have gun fatalities, we have the color indicating where something is happening, and then the size of those dots can represent the size of the population. Okay, again, I've got a little conclusion there, and I've labeled things and the sources of things. So there's another example of a stats poster project. Good luck, everybody.